The desperate plea. The vast expanse of space stretched out before the Galactic Council's meeting room. A room filled with beings from different worlds, species, and galaxies, all of whom had once thought themselves untouchable. The Council was the most powerful force in the universe, and their power had gone unchecked for centuries. But now, everything was about to change. An eerie silence filled the room as the Council members gathered around a large round table. At the head of the table sat the supreme leader of the Galactic Council, a towering figure from a distant, unknown star system. His skin shimmered with a faint glow, his eyes dark and cold. His expression, usually one of calm authority, now carried a deep worry. A message had just arrived, an urgent communication from Earth. "Play the message," the supreme leader ordered, his voice booming across the room. A figure at the far end of the table, a technician from the Terrigal system, swiftly activated the holographic display. The room darkened, and the message began to play. The image of a human appeared, standing tall, eyes filled with fire. The face was unmistakable. General Rachel Novak, the leader of Earth's defense forces. Her image flickered slightly as if the signal was struggling to stay clear, but her message was clear enough. "We have had enough." General Novak's voice echoed through the chamber. "You have crossed the line, and now you will pay. Earth will not bow to your demands anymore. You have pushed us too far." The room remained silent for several moments as the council members processed the bold words. Some of them had heard rumors that Earth was becoming more defiant, but no one truly believed that humanity could stand up to the Galactic Empire. They were wrong. How is this possible? One council member, a tall alien with scales on his skin, muttered, "The Earthlings have been under our control for so long. They should have been weak, submissive. Why are they suddenly?" "Shut up," the supreme leader snapped, his patience running thin. "This is more than a threat. This is an open declaration of war." Another council member, an insectoid being with 6 legs, spoke up in a hesitant tone. "Do we know why they are doing this? Why now?" A human envoy, who had been serving as a representative in the council, stood up from his seat, his face pale. "It seems," he began carefully, "that something has changed on Earth. They have been preparing for this. General Novak, she's not just an ordinary leader. She's built a strong resistance, and they've uncovered something powerful." The supreme leader stood, pacing around the table. "What are we supposed to do? They have no chance against us, do they?" "We may be underestimating them," said the representative quietly. "The humans, they have been oppressed, but they are not weak. Their resilience is something I've never seen before. We should prepare ourselves for a challenge like no other." The room was filled with murmurs. Some of the council members scoffed, dismissing the threat. Others looked deeply concerned. The leader of the council, however, knew the stakes. Earth had remained hidden in the vastness of the universe for so long, and its inhabitants had been quiet, too quiet. They had complied with the Galactic Council's demands for resources and technology, had kept to their small corner of the galaxy. But now it was clear that something had awakened on Earth. The supreme leader turned back to the screen. General Novak's message had ended, but the weight of her words hung in the air. "This is a mistake," he muttered. "Earth is nothing compared to the Galactic Empire. We cannot allow them to defy us." He slammed his fist on the table. "Send a fleet. We'll show them what happens when they challenge the might of the Galactic Empire." A second later, another member, a cloaked figure from a distant world, spoke up, raising a hand in caution. "We can send a fleet, yes. But what if we've misjudged them? What if they have something more powerful hidden on their planet?" The supreme leader's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" "There are rumors," the cloaked figure said, "about ancient weapons on Earth. Technology that we thought was lost to time. Something far beyond their current understanding. What if they've uncovered it? What if they have a force that we cannot even comprehend?" The supreme leader froze. He knew of the ancient civilizations that once roamed the galaxy, civilizations that had created technology beyond anything modern societies could imagine. What if Earth had tapped into that power? The thought was unsettling. He sighed deeply, rubbing his temples. "Prepare the fleet," he ordered once more, though this time his voice was less certain. "But proceed with caution. Earth may be more dangerous than we thought." As the council members scrambled to make preparations for the impending invasion, General Novik's words echoed in the back of their minds. Earth was no longer a planet to be ignored. It had become a force that could no longer be controlled. The message had been sent, and it was clear. Humanity was not afraid. The Galactic Empire had made a grave mistake in underestimating them. And now, they were about to pay the price. The awakening. The silence in the Galactic Council chamber hung heavy, broken only by the sound of the Supreme Leader's breathing. The realization that Earth was no longer the quiet, submissive colony they had once thought it to be was slowly sinking in. The council members who had once sneered at the humans and their primitive technology were now facing an unfamiliar fear, the unknown power that Earth might wield. The Supreme Leader paced in front of the large holographic table, his mind racing. "We underestimated them," he muttered to himself, his fingers running through his shimmering hair. "The humans have always been unpredictable, but this is something new." He turned to his most trusted advisor, a tall, armored being from the planet Roxia. "Prepare the fleet immediately. We will crush their resistance before it can grow. But make sure we're ready for anything. We don't know what they have hidden on that planet." The advisor, known only as Xanthor, gave a solemn nod, his face hidden behind a dark visor. "Yes, Supreme Leader. The fleet is on standby. But the humans..." He paused, his voice slightly more hesitant than usual. "They've been developing something. I can sense it. The atmosphere around Earth, it's shifting. Their defenses are stronger than we anticipated." The Supreme Leader turned sharply, glaring at Xanthor. "What are you suggesting? That we delay? That we show weakness?" "No, my lord," Xanthor quickly replied, his voice steady. "But I advise caution. We know little of what they've uncovered." Despite his unease, the Supreme Leader's decision was final. No more delay. The fleet leaves in 1 hour. Earth will feel our wrath. On Earth, in the heart of a hidden underground military facility, General Rachel Novik stood at the head of a war room, staring at a map that flickered with information. Her jaw was set, her mind focused on the task at hand. The message she'd sent to the Galactic Council was clear, and now the time had come to act. "We don't have much time," Novik said, her voice cold with determination. "The invasion is coming. We've fought for years, kept our secrets buried, but now we must awaken the ancient fleet." Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Mark Donovan, looked at her with concern. "General, are you sure about this? The old ships, the warships, are relics. They've been dormant for centuries. They might not even be functional." Novik's eyes narrowed. "We've kept them hidden for a reason, Lieutenant. These ships were designed to defend Earth against a force much greater than anything we've ever faced. They are the last line of defense, and we are about to see just how powerful they really are." As if on cue, the ground beneath their feet rumbled. The lights flickered, and a soft hum filled the air. It was a sound that had not been heard in centuries. Donovan stepped back, eyes wide with awe. "It's happening. The fleet is awakening." General Novik nodded grimly. "We've been preparing for this moment for generations. It's time to take back what's ours." Far above Earth, in the cold depths of space, the Galactic Empire's fleet gathered. The ships were massive, powerful, each one capable of destroying entire planets. And now, they were heading toward Earth. The Supreme Leader stood on the command deck of the largest warship, gazing at the distant blue planet through the viewfinder. "This will be an easy victory," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. "The humans will cower. We will bring them to their knees." His thoughts were interrupted by a loud, urgent signal from one of his commanders. "Supreme Leader, we are picking up something unusual on our sensors. There's something moving toward us. It's not registering as one of our ships, but it's large, massive. What? The Supreme Leader's eyes narrowed in confusion. Impossible. We've scanned the planet. There is nothing left of any significance. I don't know what it is, sir, but it's headed directly toward us. It's fast, and its trajectory suggests it's preparing for battle. The Supreme Leader's heart raced. Battle? From where? What is this? The response came quickly. We are receiving a transmission. From Earth. Back on Earth, General Novak stood in front of a large communication array. The ancient warships, now fully functional, were positioned around the planet, preparing to launch. Earth's hidden fleet had finally been awakened. "We've been waiting for this day," she whispered, pressing a button on the console. "Let them know what humanity is capable of." A massive signal was sent to the invading fleet in space. The transmission was clear, and though it was only a brief message, it contained a simple yet powerful declaration. "We are ready." The Supreme Leader's eyes widened as the message played in his command room. This cannot be. Before he could finish speaking, his officers began shouting in alarm. "Sir, the unidentified ship is within range. It's not just one ship. It's a fleet." On the vast screen in front of the Supreme Leader, a terrifying sight appeared. Earth's ancient warships, sleek and gleaming, emerged from the planet's atmosphere like a storm of fire and steel. The fleet was massive, with ships the size of cities, their weapons brimming with ancient power. The Supreme Leader's voice shook as he spoke. What are these?" Xanthar's voice was grave as he stared at the image. "It's Earth's last stand. We've underestimated them. They are not the helpless humans we thought they were." The moment had come. Earth's ancient warships, powered by technology unknown to the Galactic Empire, were now fully awake and ready to strike. The Galactic Council's arrogant belief that humanity was nothing more than an afterthought had just been shattered. A new chapter in the war had begun, and humanity was not about to back down. As the galactic fleet drew closer to Earth, the first shots rang out, massive energy beams from Earth's warships, targeting the invaders with a precision no one could have expected. The battle for Earth had started, and it was clear that the humans would fight to the bitter end. The tension was palpable, and the fate of Earth hung in the balance. Would the Galactic Empire be able to crush humanity's resistance? Or would Earth's ancient fleet prove to be the tipping point in the struggle for survival? The galaxy was about to witness a battle like no other. The fight had just begun, the wrath unleashed. The Galactic Empire's fleet hovered ominously above Earth, their warships blocking out the stars like a darkened sky. Supreme Leader Voltrax, who had been so confident just hours ago, now stood frozen in disbelief. The first wave of shots from Earth's warships had struck his fleet with astonishing precision, tearing through the outer hulls of several ships in a blink of an eye. "Shields are failing," one of his commanders yelled, frantically working at the control panels. "Their weapons are far stronger than we anticipated." Voltrax's mind raced. He had underestimated Earth. No, the humans weren't simply a primitive species. There was a power here, hidden beneath their seemingly unimportant existence, a power they had kept dormant for centuries. The Supreme Leader's hand tightened around the armrest of his chair, his eyes narrowing with newfound fury. "Return fire," he ordered, his voice sharp with urgency. "This cannot stand. We will wipe them out. Their little fleet is no match for us." Back on Earth, General Rachel Novak stood in the command center of the newly awakened warship fleet. The monitors displayed the devastation caused by their initial strike. Vast explosions in space as the Galactic Empire's ships were torn apart. She could feel the adrenaline pumping through her veins, the weight of the moment pressing down on her shoulders. The future of Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy, was on the line. "Prepare the next wave," she said, her voice calm but firm. "We'll show them what humanity is capable of. No retreat. No surrender." Lieutenant Mark Donovan, who had once been skeptical of their ancient weapons, now stood with renewed confidence. The Earth fleet was responding to the invasion in ways he never thought possible. The warships, behemoths of steel and technology from a forgotten age, were performing flawlessly. Yet he knew the battle was far from over. "General," Donovan began, looking up from his console, "the Galactic Fleet is retaliating. Their firepower is intense. We're taking hits. If we don't act fast, we could be overwhelmed." General Novak nodded. She had anticipated this moment. "We have one final weapon left. It's time to unleash it." Donovan's eyebrows furrowed. "But that weapon is—" "We don't have a choice," Novak interrupted. "Activate it. Now." In space, the Galactic Empire's ships launched an all-out counteroffensive, their massive energy beams cutting through the black void, aimed directly at Earth's warships. One by one, the ships in Earth's fleet rocked under the impact, their shields buckling under the weight of the Empire's firepower. Explosions blossomed in space, lighting up the cold expanse with bursts of violent light. Despite their advanced technology, the humans were beginning to show signs of wear. A few of the warships had already been damaged, and if the battle continued at this pace, Earth's defense would soon be overwhelmed. That's when it happened. A low hum filled the air as the final weapon of Earth's fleet was activated. The entire fleet seemed to glow with a strange, otherworldly energy. The warships' hulls shimmered with an ancient light, as if they were coming alive once more. From the heart of the flagship, an enormous pulse of energy surged forward, blinding in its intensity. It shot straight toward the Galactic Fleet, faster than any of the enemy ships could react. The shockwave it created shattered the shields of the closest vessels, sending them spiraling out of control. For the first time since the beginning of the war, Voltrax's confident demeanor faltered. He watched, horrified, as the blast struck his flagship, splitting its massive hull open like a can of metal. His control console flared with sparks, and alarms blared across the bridge. "What is this?" Voltrax shouted, gripping the edge of his chair to steady himself. "How could they have such power?" Xanthor, who had been monitoring the battle from a nearby station, turned to him. His face was filled with shock and disbelief. "This is not the same Earth we thought we were dealing with. We've made a grave mistake." On Earth, General Novak watched the results of the attack unfold on the screens in front of her. The pulse had struck the heart of the Galactic Fleet, leaving destruction in its wake. The energy from their final weapon seemed to ripple through space itself, leaving behind a scar of devastation. Earth's warships were now in position for a final push. "They're retreating," Donovan said, awe in his voice. It worked. The Empire's pulling back. But Novak knew better than to think the battle was over. "Don't celebrate yet. They'll regroup. We need to push forward and strike again before they have a chance to reorganize." In the depths of space, the Galactic Empire's remaining ships began to retreat, pulling away from Earth. But the Supreme Leader wasn't ready to give up. His flagship was in ruins, half of his fleet destroyed, but his pride and rage kept him going. "We cannot lose to them," Voltrax hissed, looking at the damaged control board. "Prepare the next wave. This is only the beginning." Xanthor stepped forward, his voice calm but with an edge of warning. "We've underestimated them. The humans are not as weak as we thought. They're capable of far more than we realized. Then we shall show them that the Empire will never be defeated," Voltrax said, his eyes burning with hatred. "Prepare the final assault. We will crush them, once and for all." On Earth, General Novak turned to her command team, her face serious but resolute. The battle was far from over, but for the first time in a long while, they had the upper hand. "We've made our mark today," she said, her voice steady. "The Galactic Empire knows we're not just some helpless species, but this is only the beginning. We have to be ready for their next move. Humanity's wrath is just getting started." The screens in front of her flickered with the images of the retreating Galactic Fleet, but Novak knew better than to celebrate prematurely. There was more to this war than anyone could predict. Humanity had just awakened from its long slumber, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The shifting tides. The space around Earth was quiet for a brief moment, almost as if the universe itself had held its breath. The Galactic Empire's retreating ships slowly pulled back, their enormous vessels disappearing into the black void of space. For the humans aboard Earth's warships, it was a moment of reprieve, a moment to breathe. But General Rachel Novak wasn't ready to relax just yet. The Galactic Empire had a reputation for revenge, and she knew better than to think they would let this humiliating defeat slide. "Stay alert," she ordered, her voice sharp and commanding. "This is only a temporary victory. The Empire will regroup, and when they do, they'll come back with everything they've got." As she watched the screens flicker, showing the galactic fleet pulling back, she couldn't shake the feeling that the hardest part was still ahead of them. In the depths of space, aboard the shattered flagship of the galactic fleet, Supreme Leader Voltrax fumed with fury. His once proud flagship had been reduced to a hulk of twisted metal, its core engines barely functional after the devastating pulse of energy sent by Earth's warships. How could this have happened? Voltrax muttered under his breath, his hands trembling with rage. How could a primitive species have such power? Xanthor, the fleet strategist, stood quietly by his side, his mind racing. The retreat had been a necessity, but it wasn't the victory Voltrax had been expecting. "The humans have awakened something ancient," Xanthor said cautiously. "Their warships, those aren't just ordinary ships. There's something far more advanced, something we didn't know existed." Voltrax turned to him sharply, his eyes blazing with a dangerous fire. "Then we will crush them with everything we have. Gather our forces. Prepare the final assault. They will not survive what's coming." Xanthor knew the situation was dire, but he also knew the Supreme Leader's wrath would not be easily stopped. "Understood, my lord, but we must be careful. If we underestimate them again, we risk everything." Voltrax clenched his fists. "They will pay for their defiance. We will teach them that no one dares stand against the Galactic Empire." Back on Earth, the fleet was preparing for the inevitable second wave. General Novak was making the final rounds in the command center, her mind constantly analyzing the situation. She knew their success in the first encounter had been a fluke, an unexpected advantage that the Galactic Empire hadn't foreseen. The next battle would be far more difficult. "The Empire will return," she said aloud to her command staff. "We need to be ready. Make sure the warships are fully prepared. I want all crews on high alert." Lieutenant Mark Donovan approached her, his face grave. "General, I've been running the numbers. The Empire is going to hit us harder this time. We won't have the element of surprise anymore. Their firepower is far superior." "I know," Novak replied, her voice steady. "But we have something they don't, our will to fight. We'll use every advantage we have. And if we have to, we'll go down swinging." Hours passed, and the tension in the command center was palpable. The final preparations were underway, and every crew member aboard Earth's warships was on edge. No one knew when the galactic fleet would strike, but everyone understood one undeniable truth. Earth's fight for survival was far from over. Then the alarms sounded. "All units report to battle stations." A voice echoed through the loudspeakers, sending a wave of activity throughout the command center. Novak's heart raced as she quickly took her position at the helm. "Donovan," she barked. "What's the status?" Donovan's face turned pale as he glanced at his screen. "They've regrouped. The galactic fleet is heading back toward us, and they're bringing reinforcements." General Novak's eyes narrowed. She could see the threat unfolding on the main display screen. A massive armada of galactic ships, larger and more formidable than before. The Empire was serious this time. They had come to finish what they started. "We need to be ready," Novak said, her voice unwavering. "Activate the full fleet. All ships, prepare for battle." In space, the first wave of galactic ships appeared on the horizon. Massive vessels, gleaming with advanced weaponry and unrelenting firepower, bore down on Earth's defenses with terrifying speed. It was an overwhelming sight, an entire fleet bearing down on the planet, ready to wipe out everything in their path. But Earth wasn't going down without a fight. The warships, though damaged from the first engagement, stood firm, their weapons primed and ready. The pulse from the final weapon had given humanity a fighting chance, but now they would need more than just luck. They would need everything they had. General Novik's voice rang out over the intercoms, reaching every ship in the fleet. "This is it. We're not backing down. We fight to protect our home, our people, and our future. Today, we show the galaxy that humanity's wrath knows no bounds." The words sparked a fire within the crews. They were no longer fighting just for survival. They were fighting for their very existence, for the right to defend their world, their home. And they would not let the Empire take it from them. As the galactic fleet closed in, a deafening silence fell over Earth's warships. Then the sky erupted with laser fire and explosions. The battle had begun in earnest, and the fate of Earth would be decided in the cold, unforgiving void of space. The Galactic Empire might have thought it could crush the humans easily, but the truth was becoming clear. Humanity was no longer a weak, insignificant species. They had awakened something far greater than the Empire could have ever imagined, and they were prepared to use it. In the face of the Empire's wrath, Earth would fight with everything it had, and the galaxy would never forget the day it learned the true meaning of humanity's fury, the battle for survival. The air was thick with tension as Earth's fleet braced for impact. The enemy ships were massive, their hulls glowing with the deadly intent of their firepower. Every officer, every soldier, every crew member on Earth's warships knew that this was not just another battle. This was the fight for humanity's very existence. General Novik stood at the heart of the command center, her eyes glued to the main screen. The Galactic Empire's fleet, once retreating, was now closing in with a vengeance. Their overwhelming numbers were intimidating, but Novik's resolve was unshaken. Humanity had proven itself once before, and it would do so again. "All hands to battle stations," Novik shouted, her voice filled with determination. "This is not a retreat. This is our stand. The future of Earth rests in our hands." The first volley of fire from the Empire struck Earth's outer defenses, shaking the warships. On board the largest vessel, the flagship Defender, Captain Sarah Mallory gripped the console as the shockwave reverberated through the ship. "We've been hit. Shields at 50%. A crew member shouted, panic creeping into his voice. "Status of our weapons," Mallory demanded, her tone commanding. "Ready, Captain. We've got missiles locked on the enemy." "Fire everything we've got," Mallory ordered, her heart pounding with adrenaline. "We're not going down without a fight." The Defender unleashed a barrage of missiles, their explosive trails lighting up the sky like streaks of fire. The missiles made their way toward the nearest galactic ships, exploding on impact with blinding brilliance. It wasn't enough to destroy them, but it was enough to slow their advance. On the bridge of the Eclipse, one of Earth's newer warships, Lieutenant Marcus Ryan gritted his teeth as the warning lights flashed. The first wave of enemy ships had begun their assault, and the entire fleet was under siege. "We've lost contact with several outer ships," a nervous officer reported. "They've been overwhelmed by the enemy fleet." Ryan clenched his fists. "We can't let that be us. Take evasive maneuvers. Fire at will." The Eclipse veered sharply to the left, narrowly avoiding an incoming blast from a galactic destroyer. The ship's weapons fired in response, lighting up the dark expanse of space with a deadly dance of energy beams. Ryan watched the explosions ripple across the enemy vessels, but their numbers were too great. "Keep fighting," he shouted, rallying his crew. "We hold the line." Back on Earth, the war raged on across the globe. With the invasion now imminent, humanity had thrown its full might into defending the planet. Cities were torn apart by the shockwaves from space battles, and yet the people stood strong, resolute in their refusal to be beaten. Governments, military leaders, and civilians had come together in an unbreakable unity. In the underground command center, a team of scientists worked feverishly. Dr. Elena Martinez, the head scientist of Earth's defense, was monitoring a crucial weapon, a prototype of unimaginable power. The weapon had been developed in secret, and now, with the fate of the planet hanging in the balance, it was humanity's last hope. "Is it ready?" Dr. Martinez asked, her voice steady despite the panic around her. "It's unstable," Dr. Martinez, one of her engineers, replied, his face pale. "One misfire could cause an explosion that would take out the entire continent." "We don't have a choice," she replied firmly. "Prepare it. It's our only chance." Back in space, General Novak was receiving updates from every corner of the battle. Earth's fleet was taking heavy losses, and though they were making the Empire bleed, it wasn't enough to stop them. "Casualties are mounting," Lieutenant Donovan reported, his face grim. "We've lost a quarter of our ships. The Empire's forces are overwhelming us." "Hold the line," Novak ordered, her voice unwavering. "We fight until the last man. This is the turning point. If we fall now, Earth will fall forever." The battle had escalated beyond anything anyone had anticipated. The galactic fleet was too vast, their ships too powerful. The odds seemed insurmountable. Yet the humans of Earth weren't giving up. They were fighting like never before, their hearts filled with the knowledge that their world, their homes, their very existence depended on this fight. As the battle raged on, the Defender found itself at the heart of the conflict. The ship's hull groaned under the pressure of the enemy fire, but it was still standing. Captain Mallory, battered and bruised but unbroken, issued the order to fire another round of missiles. "Send them a message," Mallory muttered under her breath. "They think they can crush us. We'll show them what humanity is capable of." The missiles launched in rapid succession, tearing through the vacuum of space and striking the galactic ships with deadly precision. Yet, despite their best efforts, the numbers of the Empire's fleet kept growing. The battle had reached a breaking point, and General Novak knew that the next move would determine everything. On the outskirts of the battlefield, a new signal began to pulse, a beacon from the last remaining human prototype weapon. Dr. Martinez's team had activated it, and the weapon began to charge. The massive energy surge was visible from Earth's warships. "General," Donovan shouted, his voice tinged with disbelief. "It's working. The weapon is charged. It's ready." Novak's eyes widened as she turned toward the screen. The weapon, a terrifying new piece of technology, was humanity's final hope. With one powerful strike, it could turn the tide of the war, or it could destroy everything. "Fire it now," Novak said, her voice low and dangerous. "Let's give them a taste of humanity's fury." The weapon fired. The result was immediate. A wave of energy erupted from Earth, tearing through space and reaching the galactic fleet with unprecedented speed. The shockwave hit their ships like a tidal wave, causing massive explosions that lit up the night sky. The Empire's vessels began to break apart, their massive warships collapsing into debris. The battle was far from over, but Earth had just unleashed its final weapon. The Galactic Empire had been dealt a blow they hadn't expected, and now the war was truly on humanity's terms. As the waves of battle surged, one truth stood clear: humanity would never stop fighting for its survival. The final push. The dust was far from settled, but Earth had made its mark. The Galactic Empire's vast fleet had suffered a devastating blow. Ships that once filled the sky with their oppressive presence were now scattered, damaged, and retreating. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, the Empire's overwhelming force had been challenged. On the bridge of the Defender, Captain Mallory stood tall, her eyes locked on the tactical display. The explosions from the energy wave still rippled through space, and debris from the wrecked Empire vessels floated like the remnants of a shattered dream. "We've got them on the run," Lieutenant Stevens said, his voice laced with both relief and disbelief. "But they're regrouping. The Empire isn't one to back down easily." "I know," Mallory said, her voice hardening with determination. "But we've shown them that we're not as weak as they thought. We've taken their best shot, and we're still standing. They'll have to do more than regroup to crush humanity." On Earth, the moment of triumph was short-lived. Though the weapon had delivered a powerful blow, the battle was far from over. In every city, people were holding their breath, watching the skies as the outcome of this cosmic war unfolded. The front lines on Earth remained hotly contested, with forces from both sides clashing in brutal skirmishes. General Novak stood in her command center, now surrounded by her most trusted officers. She looked at the war map, the red markers representing enemy positions still scattered across Earth's atmosphere. "They've taken some heavy losses," Lieutenant Donovan said. "But their reinforcements are arriving. We can't let up now." "We won't," Novak replied. Her eyes narrowed. "We have one more chance to end this. We'll push forward, and this time, we make sure the Empire knows that Earth won't just survive. We'll win." The Eclipse maneuvered through the debris, its engines roaring as it pressed toward the heart of the enemy's remaining fleet. Lieutenant Marcus Ryan knew that this was humanity's final opportunity to make a stand. "We've lost half our fleet," Ryan said grimly. "But we've also broken their morale. Now it's time to finish this." He gripped the controls, guiding the Eclipse closer to the central command ship of the Empire's remaining forces. The Galactic Fleet was regrouping, but their disarray was a sign of weakness. It was a momentary crack in their once impenetrable armor. "Captain Ryan," a crew member called out, "we've received an urgent transmission from Earth. It's the General." Ryan's heart raced as he activated the communication channel. General Novak's face appeared on the screen, her expression determined. "Lieutenant Ryan, the weapon is still operational," she said. "We're moving in for the final assault. I need you to lead the charge and make sure the Empire doesn't recover." Ryan nodded. "Understood, General. We're on it." Back on Earth, the situation was still tense. The streets of major cities had turned into battlegrounds as humanity fought tooth and nail to hold their ground. Yet despite the violence, there was an undeniable sense of unity, of purpose. People from all walks of life, soldiers, civilians, scientists, were all standing together. In the heart of the battle, Dr. Martinez's team was working overtime. The weapon's power had yet to be fully unleashed, and every hour it was active, there was a risk it could backfire. But the scientists couldn't afford to wait. The warships in the sky were already regrouping, preparing for another massive offensive. "We need to charge it fully," Dr. Martinez said, watching the redouts with a cold determination. "If we don't act now, it might be too late." She turned to her lead engineer. "Prepare the second charge. We'll need it." Above the Earth, the final waves of the Galactic Empire's ships advanced with chilling efficiency. But something was different. The remaining human fleet wasn't retreating or faltering. Instead, they were gathering together, forming a united front that was stronger than anything the Empire had ever faced. The Defender, Eclipse, and dozens of smaller warships lined up in formation as the lead ships from the Empire approached. The final confrontation was upon them. "Ready your weapons," Captain Mallory said, her voice steady and calm. "We're giving everything we've got. No retreat, no surrender." On the Eclipse, Lieutenant Ryan's fingers flew over the controls. The Eclipse had taken more damage than any of them cared to admit, but Ryan's resolve was unbreakable. "This ends today." Aboard the command ship of the Galactic Empire, the fleet's admiral watched as Earth's fleet united in one final effort. His lip curled into a sneer, though the concern in his eyes was clear. "They think they can challenge us," the admiral muttered. "We will crush them. We are the Empire. We cannot lose." But even as the words left his mouth, the reality of the situation began to sink in. Humanity's resolve was unlike anything he had ever encountered. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and yet they fought with a fury that the Empire had never experienced. The Defender fired first, its cannons releasing powerful blasts that sent ripples through the enemy ships. The Eclipse followed suit, launching a barrage of missiles that tore through the skies, cutting down enemy vessels with precision and force. The Galactic Empire had underestimated Earth, and now, as the Empire's ships began to retreat once more, the tides of war were turning. Back on Earth, the mood was tense. The world watched, holding its collective breath as the battle reached its peak. In every nation, in every home, people waited for the signal, the moment when the Galactic Empire would finally realize that humanity was not to be trifled with. General Novik's voice rang out across every communication channel. Humanity has fought for its survival, and now we are fighting for our future. This is our moment. Let's end this. And with that, Earth's final push began. The last stand. The battle had reached its breaking point. The galaxy watched in awe as Earth, a planet once considered insignificant by the mighty Galactic Empire, now stood as a beacon of defiance. Above, in the swirling chaos of space, the remnants of the Empire's fleet were desperate to regroup, but their resolve was faltering. The vastness of their empire had crumbled before the fierce will of humanity. The Defender led the charge, its hull battered but its engines burning bright. Captain Mallory gripped the command chair, her knuckles white. They had come so far, but this was the moment that would decide everything. Earth's fate, the fate of every man, woman, and child, rested in their hands. "Captain, their flagship is retreating," Lieutenant Stevens called out, his voice filled with a mix of excitement and caution. "If we hit them now, we can finish this." Mallory's gaze never wavered. "We don't have another shot like this. Prepare everything we've got." Around them, the Eclipse, Venator, and dozens of smaller ships pulled into formation. The energy from Earth's weapon had destabilized the Empire's fleet, throwing them into disarray. Yet the Empire's command ship, the Vanguard, remained a looming threat. It was the heart of their operation, and as long as it survived, the war wasn't over. On the ground, the situation was no less intense. The Galactic Empire's invasion forces had been pushed back, but they still held strongholds in some of Earth's most critical regions. Humanity's military was stretched thin, their resolve tested like never before. But even in the darkest hours, they fought with everything they had. General Novik's face was grim as she surveyed the battlefield. The latest reports showed that enemy reinforcements were on the way. But Earth's forces had one final weapon: the orbital strike satellites. "These satellites will change the tide," Novik muttered to her officer. "If we can get a clear shot, we'll finally cripple their fleet." Back in space, the Defender was closing in on the Vanguard. It was a massive ship, nearly the size of Earth's moon, and its advanced weaponry could destroy entire fleets in a single blow. Yet the humans on board the Defender were driven by a determination that could not be swayed. They had come this far, and they would not retreat now. "Lock onto the Vanguard's weak spot," Mallory ordered, her voice filled with calm authority. "Aim for their engines. We take them out, and they're done." Lieutenant Ryan, aboard the Eclipse, followed the command. "Ready on our end, Captain. Target locked. Firing on your mark." On Earth's surface, Dr. Martinez and her team had worked tirelessly to ensure the orbital strike satellites were aligned. The first strike had been a success, but there was a chance that the Empire's forces could regroup before the satellites could charge again. They needed more time. "Are the satellites ready?" Dr. Martinez asked, her voice trembling with urgency. "Yes," her chief engineer confirmed, "but it will take a few more minutes to charge up fully." "Then we fight for those minutes," she said, her eyes narrowing. "The Empire won't get a chance to strike back." The Vanguard's shields flared as the first wave of human firepower struck home. It was a concentrated barrage, designed to push the giant warship back, but the Empire was no stranger to resistance. The Vanguard retaliated, its cannons firing powerful beams that shook the very fabric of space. The Defender rocked as a blast struck their port side. "We've got heavy damage on the port side," Lieutenant Stevens shouted as alarms blared throughout the ship. "We're still good, but we need to push harder." Mallory nodded, her eyes focused. "Keep firing. This ship is going down today." Back on Earth, the battle raged on. Waves of enemy forces continued to assault the last remaining human strongholds. But each wave was weaker than the last, as the hope of the Empire's victory slowly faded. General Novik's forces had taken the offensive. With the help of orbital artillery strikes and the ground forces' relentless pressure, they were pushing the Empire's soldiers back, reclaiming key locations one by one. "We're closing in on their final stronghold," one of her officers reported. "We'll have them cornered soon." "Good," Novik said, her voice firm. "Let's end this. We've come too far to fail now." In space, the humans were giving everything they had. The Defender's final volley collided with the Vanguard, igniting a massive explosion that lit up the dark expanse of space. The Empire's flagship staggered, its engines burning, and the ship began to tilt, spiraling toward the planet below. "We've done it," Lieutenant Ryan shouted. "The Vanguard is down." But Mallory knew better than to celebrate just yet. "Hold fire. There's still work to do. We need to make sure they can't recover." The Vanguard was spiraling, but its collapse wasn't the end. The remaining Imperial ships were still out there, and they would fight to the bitter end. Back on Earth, as the Empire's forces faltered and their command ship crashed into the planet's atmosphere, the final phase of the battle began. Humanity was on the verge of victory, but it would require one last push, one last moment of unyielding resolve. The human warships fired their final salvo, taking down the remaining Empire vessels, while on Earth, the last pockets of resistance were eradicated. "We've done it," General Novik said quietly, watching the final battle unfold from her command center. "The Empire is no more." With the Galactic Empire's forces vanquished, Earth stood victorious. It was a hard-fought war, one that would leave scars on the planet for generations. Yet humanity had proven something far more important: its ability to rise up against impossible odds and secure its future. As the skies above Earth cleared, and the remnants of the Empire's fleet disappeared into the distance, a new era began. An era where humanity no longer cowered under the weight of a superior force. The war had ended, and Earth had won. The Galactic Empire had underestimated humanity, and now they knew the truth. Earth's wrath had no bounds.